Good morning and welcome in. I'm Falonier, and this is my Learn to Lioranboard 2 series, where I teach you how to do basic functions and features inside Lioranboard 2 so you can go make some awesome stuff for your stream. And today we're going to talk about initialized variables, or init variables. This can be a little confusing, so I'll try to go through it step by step and give you some examples of what they look like. So follow me and let's learn. All right, so inside Lioranboard 2, we're gonna come right here to my Learn to Lioranboard 2 deck. And what we've talked about before is that with variables, you have to establish what a variable is. You have to define it before you can do things to it. This is especially true with numbers. So if you have a counter, you have to set the counter to a number, and then you can start increasing it or decreasing it however you'd like. So let's give an example of this. If I create this button, and we're going to set local. If I just call this counter, and we try to increase it by 1, and then we want to relay this counter to, say, a Twitch chat message. So let's do send chat message. This is going to go to my channel, and this is going to be counter is, and then we wrap our variable so we can show what's inside of it. Hit save, pull up our stream deck. We will connect to, where's it at? Learn to Lioranboard 2, load the deck, and then I'll pull my Twitch chat out so you can see it. Here it is over on the side. And we'll click this button. Chat counter is undefined 1. So the counter is undefined, and then it added the number 1 to the end of it. So this isn't actually doing the counter correctly. What we would have to do is right above it, do another set local variable. And go counter equals 0 so we can define it first, and then we'll increase it by 1. So we'll try that again. Counter is 1. Now the problem with doing this is that every time I hit this button, it's gonna say 1 because it sets the number to 0 and increases it by 1. So what we can do here is use an initialized variable to create the variable in the button without using a command to do it. That way when we go to manipulate it, it's already there and can be changed. And I'll show you how to do that. So we'll go back in here, we'll right click the button and go to edit init variables. And what you're gonna see here is just a JSON formatted string. What we can do is we can create our variables here, initialize them into the button, and then they'll just already exist. Actually, let's do this differently. Let's delete this button. We're gonna create a new button, and we're gonna do our edit initialize variables. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to create the counter variable, and then I'm going to define it like this. So counter is our variable, and we wrap it in quotes, and then 0 is the information held in the variable. This is just the number 0. If I wanted the string 0, I could do like that, or I could make the string just a word or phrase, anything like that. But for now, I just want the number. So we're going to initialize this button's variables and hit save. Now we haven't done anything to this button yet, but we should still see the variable inside of it because we initialized it. So we're looking at ID 112. We'll hit save, go to our variable viewer, go to 112, and boom, counter equals 0. So now, if I go to edit commands, we're gonna set local variable. We're looking for counter, and we're gonna increase it by 1. I should have copied these commands earlier. Counter, okay, save and save. So now on our stream deck, we have, let's just make sure that that new button is correct. Connect, Learn to Lioranboard 2, move this over here, this over. Counter is 1 because it was set at 0. Counter is 2, counter is 3, counter is 4. So now it's gonna count up without us having to establish what the variable was inside the button itself. Now, what this means is every time you close Lioranboard and open it back up, that button is going to redefine the counter variable as the number 0. So it's not gonna save this from stream to stream, but it will reset every time you open the program up. And again, it keeps you from having to do a set value to a number and then try to manipulate it later without having to set it up in a way that every time you trigger the button, it doesn't set the value first and then try to increase it as we demonstrated earlier. Now, not only can you do this with variables, but you can do this with arrays and objects as well. And I can't give you like the best example of when you would want to do that, even though I have some instances that I'm doing it, but they're not really applicable to everyone, but I'll show you how to do it regardless. So we'll go into our edit variables. If we were to add another variable below this, so let's say we're just gonna make some random names for variables, and we can make this 15, and we have another one below it, and we're gonna call this name, and we'll have the string Falanier saved for the name, you know, whatever. Anytime you have another item below it, you have to add a comma to separate the variables. Now for the very last thing, you don't have to have a comma because that's the end of it. But if I wanted to set up counter, time with a value, and a variable called name with a string, I could do it like this. But let's say we wanted to add an array of specific things. You could have the array empty, but let's just say we wanted an array with things in it. So what we would start with is the name of our array. So we'll just call this array, and we're writing it the same way we would for a variable. So we start off with the name of the variable, which in this case it's an array, wrapped in quotes, colon, and then we'll have our bracket. And then inside the bracket, we'll just define all of the individual things in our array separated by commas. So let's say we wanted to have Falanier in quotes, sorry. Falanier is a string that we're gonna store in the array, and then we're also gonna store Jazz the Zeke, he's my buddy, and we're gonna wrap that one in quotes. And then we're gonna put the number 100, and then we're gonna close that bracket. So now when we initialize these variables, we're gonna have an array with these three things in it, these two strings and this number. So we're gonna initialize invalid format. Oh, because I have a break in there. Let's try it like that. And the comma initialize. Perfect. So now it's initialized. We'll hit save, go into our viewfinder, 112. And now we have counter, which is a number, time, which is a number, Falanier, which is a string, and an array called array that has three items in it. It has the string Falanier, the string Jazz the Zeke, and the number 100. And now if I ever wanted to do anything to this array, I could add stuff into it. I could take stuff out of it. I could refer to information that's in it. I already have it created, and I don't have to have those individual commands for create array, add item, then reference items. I could just go straight to commands that reference the things that are in this. And like I said, we can go one step further by also creating an object. If you need to know more about objects, check my video in this corner right here for the tutorial that I made for how to create and reference items inside objects, and then ways you can use that information. So we're going to edit our initialize variables. We're going to add a comma because we're going to create another thing inside this JSON. The same way we did arrays, we're going to make an object. Object is going to be the name of our object. We're going to break that with a colon. And instead of using the square brackets, we're going to use the curly brackets. And then we're just going to put pairs of information in here. So let's say I wanted to have, in quotes, the first pair is going to be name one. And then with that, I'm going to pair tacos. I'm just making some stuff up here. And then comma to separate that. And then for the next one, we're going to go name two with a colon, and we're going to call this one soup. Sure, you can tell I'm hungry. And then for the last one, we're going to go number one. And these are just variables that we're creating, 17. And then we're going to end that with a curly bracket. Now, if we hit save, missing syntax, cannot save. Okay, what did I didn't end that with a quote. Okay, and save. Now, if we go to initialize these variables and hit save, go to our viewer, 112, and now we have an object called object, and inside of it, we have three variables. We have number one, which is storing the information, 17. We have name one, which is storing the string tacos, and we have name two, which is storing the string soup. And this is how you can preemptively load variables or arrays or bits of information into Lioranboard so that you don't have to add all that stuff in with commands. You can just set it in here and then reference that information for later. I do have a really big project that we're going to be releasing hopefully very, very soon, the version 2 of Pokemon Twitch Purple. And inside of that, we created all kinds of objects and arrays inside a button we're using for deck variables, which is what I talked about in my variable video, which you can go check out. Link up, the card is up there, I guess. And you can see the effectiveness that we had with adding objects and arrays and predefined variables into that, so we don't have to have them inside a bunch of different buttons. You can use that as an example. Hopefully you can take this information and go make some really, really cool stuff. If you like this content, please do not forget to like this video, drop a little comment if you have some further information that you'd like for me to give you or videos that you'd like for to see on the channel, and subscribe, because like 20% of the people that watch my videos end up subscribing, and it really helps me out. If you enjoy this content, that's the best way that you can help me going forward. I hope you can take this information, make some wonderful stuff of your own, hop into the Beyond Streaming Discord and show us all the really awesome stuff you're making with everything you've learned from these videos. Hope you have a great evening. Stay safe, stay hydrated. If you want to see more, check this playlist right here for the rest of our videos for the Learn to Lioranboard 2 series. Have a great day.